Hi, everybody. So, we're so excited. We are here to talk about two episodes of Star Trek Discovery. We are a little behind because I had a family funeral that I had to attend and been a little sick. I'm still a little at low voice at the moment, but we're going to do the best we can. And Tom is here to talk about these episodes with me.
Hi.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. They had a very controversial at least for me, it was a controversial mid-season return premiere that we talked about. And how did you feel in general about these two episodes?
Um, Mostly, I'm still kind of getting over the shock of what's been revealed, and seeing the tapestry come together here. I think we've only got like 3 episodes left now
Mhm.
for the season, and what the picture they've been painting is starting to finish taking shape here. So I'm kind of reserving. I'm feeling a little reserved about judging
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah.
but it is interesting and it is fun. There's lots of good fun in these episodes. Spoiler heavy this
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, just know that this is gonna spoil you like crazy.
Yes. Very spoiler heavy. I didn't find much fun, to be honest. I felt like this continued on the mid-season premieres. Just to me, this was kind of two sort of joyless episodes, and particularly I think they took two characters that had been pretty hopeful or interesting to me, and I don't know, I not just two characters, like many characters, and I don't know, I'm still struggling to find uh, what I am going to kind of relate to or root for now in this series, and I don't know, I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest. This is not the way that I would have had them go. I did myself to podcasting about it. Certainly we're going to finish off the season, but, of course, I want it to be something that I like. And so, we'll see. And it's not like it was a total miss, but like I said, this is not the way I would have taken the show to me.
Okay.
I feel like the last fun episode we had was the Time Warp episode. And that was where I thought the show was the best. And then this is not my favorite. But anyway, so we will talk about it. And so the first episode that we're going to talk about is called The Wolf Inside Me. And so we get to learn a little bit about Saru in this mirror universe. And this sort of starts out, and we find out that he's basically a complete slave. Like, he has no sort of autonomy as a person.
Yeah.
And what did you think about that?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. But yeah, it's there's sort of an interesting parallel in real life. I think that where you have a lot of people on the far right in American politics flirting with racism and flirting with anti-Semitism in a parallel universe where the Nazis won, look to the left and look to the right, those people would not be in your lives because of they're disabled in some way or defective in some way, or they're Jewish, or they're just wrong somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, History could have easily gone in another direction, and that affects people. That affects people with interests and lives and spirits, and our choices matter. I think that's the message there, that you can choose slavery or joy or suffering for yourself and for the people around you, depending on what you choose.
Mm-hmm. And so it was the whole Federation's choice, or particularly, do you feel like it was particularly Burnham's choice, or like who is sort of most? Do you think they're trying to say sort of most made this happen?
Well, I think it's both. I think it's every coward who refused to speak up for the right thing when it was called for.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay,
I, yeah,
interesting.
I think every individual is culpable who's in on the lie, who's in on repeating the lie. And
Mm-hmm.
I think what's cool about seeing these characters in well, I guess I'll be more specific. What's cool about seeing Michael in the mirror universe is that she's in a position to she maybe has the courage that her mirror self didn't have, and is maybe willing to say at the right time in the right place, this isn't okay. And and in the next episode we kind of get that. Now she has to kind of keep her head down in the meantime, but yeah, that whole arc with Saru is, it's dark, it's troubling.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to go ahead and kind of just bleed the 2 episodes together in our discussion?
Yeah, we might as well.
Okay. Because you look at in the next episode, Vaulting Ambition, where she's asked to choose a Kelpian, and Saru is in the lineup, and she doesn't know what she's choosing them for. And she rolls the dice that by picking the person she's going to pick has something good in store for them, or at least something less terrible. And she ends up being quite wrong about that. Mm-hmm. She ends up having to eat her best friend, or her best friend's parallel on the other side. Meanwhile, Saru on the other side is awesome, right? Saru from our universe is amazing. I love that the scene in Vaulting Ambition where he's talking to L'Rell and trying to plead with her for Vox / Tyler's life. And I like how someone pointed out in After Trek that there was something Picardian about it. I think that's a great insight. That yes, that there was something that reminded me very much of Captain Picard. That use of persuasion, not just appealing to the emotions, but also to logic, and setting very clear boundaries. And I don't know, there was a strength in the way that he negotiated with her that showed real growth in the character, and that was good fun to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I like the way that Sue kind of tells Laura, like, this is sort of a lose-lose situation here. Like, there's no one will end up coming out the victor. She doesn't really listen, but like that, I don't know. I thought that was interesting too. That that really, like, even if you've technically won, it's still war, and it's still a horrible situation. Trying to get her to see some humanity in Tyler and in Volk, I guess. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, she, in the first visit, she's so committed to her ideology, and she says that we will die for our ideology. That's what war is, right? You devote your whole soul to the idea, and that's all that matters. But then when he drops a person into her cell, a suffering person, it becomes different. When it stops being about flags and it starts being about one person you're looking in the eye and watching them scream in agony, suddenly you find your humanity. It turns out that our compassion doesn't scale, right? It doesn't scale too well outside of your line of sight. And when with big nations, let alone star empires, you said suddenly when it's someone millions of miles away across the stars, and in groups of tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions even, suddenly your compassion is just nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a big thing in modern philosophy, is the idea of the idea that you have to you have an innate response to the other, but what like modernity does is like turn everybody into the same, and so it's not just a human being that you've had this innate response to. It's a slave, or like everybody's the same. So you've taken away their humanity, and that's something I think that you can kind of see throughout Saru's storyline, but like I said, also through Tyler's storyline, so that's an interesting thing, something that definitely rings true to me. So in this episode, the first episode, you have this idea. So there's this rebellion that is led by this Klingon that is called Firewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Burnham and Ash are sent down to they're supposed to destroy the camp, and they're going to get information, but like they're really secretly trying to like warn the rebels and trying to help them. And so it's an interesting thing, and you have this whole sort of idea of this sort of Terran empire, and that's kind of seemed like made sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's kind of made these these rebels, this sort of weird assemblage of rebels, kind of work together when they would have been against each other in previous times.
Right. One of the we're kind of getting we're building a little bit on a foundation that Enterprise built, the series Enterprise.
Okay.
In Enterprise, we get a little bit more intimate. Well, first of all, in the original series, we're introduced to these major races in the Federation: the Andorians, the Tellarites, and the Vulcans. And in Enterprise, we see them begin to work together, and we see them go from a state of initially being rivals to being allies and having common interests. And we see the distinctive ways, the things that set them apart from each other, the things that make them different from each other, but also the same in weird ways. Like the Tellarites, for instance, their language basically consists of put downs and arguments. If you have a Tellarite as a guest, he will freely say, "You call this a house? Why haven't you offered me anything to drink? Not that I'd want to drink anything in this swill pit." That's how they talk. That's polite to them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of hard to deal with, as you can imagine. Right. So you've got them, and then you've got the Vulcans and the Andorians, and the Andorians are kind of warlike, and the Vulcans are more warlike than they care to admit, and they protest their logic, but anyway, they fight like they've been fighting like cats and dogs for centuries. So you get all the three of these together, brought together by humanity, who acts as sort of a go-between, and that's how you have the foundation for the Federation. And so it's kind of cool to see the gang see them get the band back together, but in this weird way where they're allied with the Klingons against humanity. So it's like it kind of reminds me of some books I've read by Neil Ferguson, who's writes about geopolitics, and he talks about, people talk about, oh, well, America's a terrible empire because it's an empire, and we really shouldn't be one. And he's British, but his argument is, well, you think that if there's no American empire, that there will just be no empires? You think that if America stands down, no one will fill the vacuum?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. I hadn't heard of that. But you're right. Yeah, the space loves a vacuum, as they say. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I almost feel like they could have done more interesting things sort of with this division, but we pretty much immediately get taken into the revelation, which the episode is called "The Wolf Inside Me." We get the revelation of Volk inside Ash, and to Burnham. Now she knows, and that it's just growing stronger and stronger, and that it's really like pretty much his whole body. Like they've taken that they've taken his sort of almost wrapped Ash around Volk, and I don't know, like I guess I just feel like he was a character I really liked, and so I kind of hate. I feel like he's rapidly becoming irredeemable. I mean, he's already killed a completely innocent person. He and now he goes and attacks the Firewolf. He is, I don't know, everything that happens in the next episode with him. I just kind of, I don't know. I just wish I wouldn't have done what they did.
Do you feel like you've lost fair? Ash?
Yeah, don't you think?
It's possible that we did, and after watching The Wolf Inside Me, I did feel like, oh, well, he's done. That
Yeah,
was
I
it.
mean,
Like
like,
I did feel a little let down, but after Vaulting Ambition, I felt a little encouraged because it. Okay, so my assumption was that, and this is the way they usually do spies, in Star Trek in the past,
uh-huh.
where you have someone who's species A, they want to spy on species B, so they're surgically altered to look like that species. I assumed that that's what was going on with Falk. That like it
Okay.
wasn't just that it wasn't just aesthetic. Like they somehow did some crazy science magic to make him his DNA this person. And in Vaulting Ambition, it gets a little muddier. It actually looks like Vok is dead. Like he's an unembodied Klingon, and they took his consciousness and pasted it onto Ash's. That Ash was a legit human,
Right.
but I don't understand why all the scar tissue on the organs and stuff. I don't get that. But yeah, I'm very confused.
Well, and
But
if he was
my
able to
sense is
hold it
that
in,
Ash is still with us.
and he was able to hold it in so long,
Yeah.
you think you'd see like little ticks or little, more, don't you think?
Well, I mean, it's fantasy, right? They can do whatever they want. But
Fair enough.
yeah, it did kind of leak out here and there. But like the way that like he sort of changed, it is sort of like he was possessed. It was less like, oh, I better not break my cover. It's more like he can't help himself and it's busting out of him, and he's got he's got a dual personality.
I mean, can they get Ash back, do you think?
I think so. That's how it looks
Just-
to me,
I mean, is this been
because we know
permanently
Volk is
altered his
dead.
body though?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it certainly scarred him, and he probably isn't going to ever be quite the same. But I think that
Mhm.
the guy we've gotten to know and like um,
We'll
is
come back.
still in there. That's my opinion. I may be proven wrong on that, but um,
I hope so because
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like it's a bummer.
yeah,
But I hope so. But anyway, so yeah, he like attacks the firewolf. I think that at this point, that especially considering the situation they're in, where they're kind of, I don't know, the roles that they're playing, do you think that Burnham should have killed Volk / Ash at this? I mean, he is so he's ruined everything they're trying to accomplish, and he's basically an enemy. Like, would that just have been too far for her character? Or
Well, I think that the Michael we met in the first 15-20 minutes of the pilot would have, without hesitation.
right.
But she's gotten a little wiser. And so I think she's definitely thinking not twice, but 3 or 4 or 5 times before making a life or death decision about anybody,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's an existential threat to herself.
Mm-hmm.
At that point. But you know what I mean? Like
Pretty threatening, though.
yeah, for
Pretty
sure.
threatening. Yeah,
Well,
it's
and pride,
interesting.
also there's the disposition of this is the man she loves.
Right.
You're
Um,
not. It's going to be tough for you to swallow. I mean, you look at people whose partners turn out to be child molesters or rapists or serial killers. They have a hard time just saying no. You're out of my life. Like they have to go through a real process that takes a long time and hard work to separate themselves if they choose to do that. They may not.
mm, kind of ends up rescuing her and the mirror universe, Saru. And then she's basically left with only kind of Lorca on her side at this point, at the end of this episode,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. Moments. I thought that was really nice. I mean, it's kind of bittersweet because obviously he's dead, and Stamets is in this weird limbo spot, and so it's sort of it's a bittersweet moment, but at least it was not as depressing as this sounds weird to say that wouldn't be depressing, but it was a little hopeful and a little bit of a lovely moment to
Well,
me.
yeah, you need stuff like that. Fit in well with the rest of the episode because while they're surrounded by chaos and death and nihilism, we need a reminder of what they're fighting for:
Mm-hmm.
human
Yeah,
connection,
that's a good way to put it.
compassion.
It's still very surprising to me. I'm very surprised that they would do this to the first gay couple in Star Trek. I I'm shocked, to be honest, that they would
That you're
kill.
still reeling from the death.
Yeah, I'm shocked
Yeah.
that they just on a sort of a publicity. I'm just surprised. I'm not saying it doesn't necessarily work for the story, but I'm very surprised that they went down that route. Yeah, it's just interesting.
I'm delighted. I mean, not
Yeah.
because I dislike the character, but I'm delighted in the sense that this wasn't a box check, right? This wasn't. Yeah, they're treating this. They're not only do they have a gay character, they're treating that gay character like a person, and no one's wearing feather boas or singing Liza Minnelli songs. It's there's no. It's not a box check, and it's also not an orientalizing. It's treating a gay person like a person, and that I can get behind for sure.
Fair enough. I just wish we could have gotten to know them longer, because I did like them together. So anyway, we get to the end of this whole scene, and Stamets is the mirror Stamets is freed from the spores, but we find out the spores are like infected. They're not going to work. They're not going to be able to get home that way. So
apparently, maybe, probably,
yeah,
it's a little iffy.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they get out of this whole situation. Especially, I don't know if you think they're going to end with a cliffhanger after the three episodes.
Oh, possibly. I'll tell you this. I think you are going to be craving the next one. I think, but it's not going to be like throw things at the TV kind of, where they the end. Like it's not going to be that. I think they'll entice us, with the possibilities of what's ahead. But, my prediction for the end of the series, and this was from early on, I think Michael's going to end up captain of the Discovery. And the way they're going with this, it looks better and better for that every minute.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Hook and Tyler, they're like, it's like almost a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of situation. Like they're battling each other. And L'Rell tells Saru that they used Tyler's DNA and put it over Vok, and that she's the only one that can do the procedure that will remove Vok. I was a little bit confused. So basically, like he ends up being kind of more Vok than even before, right? Or I don't know what happened there. I was a little confused.
No, Vok is gone.
Vok is gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay, sorry.
The way that some of that, unfortunately, I think that I was confused by the scene too, but adding the pieces together and knowing what I know about Klingons, there's no doubt in my mind he's dead. He's gone because at the end of that, she screams like in a very, not as a reaction to anything in particular, like not as in a visceral way, but she lets out a deliberate howl, and that's a Klingon custom that when a Klingon dies, you howl over its corpse to warn the afterlife that a Klingon warrior is arriving. It's actually kind of a beautiful idea, but in its own Klingon-y kind of way. But that's what she was doing. Vok is gone, and at least as far as she's concerned, Vok is gone. Now we could, she may end up being wrong about that.
Okay.
But, yeah,
that's good to know. Like I said, I was a little confused. So, all right. So that could be. We could see then Ash getting some redemption then now that he's hopefully back to himself. We'll see what happens with that. And so, Burnham and Lorca, they're like, at this point, they're sort of pretending to be the mirror versions of themselves. And they're trying to find this ship, the Defiant, to see if that will be the key to finding a way home.
Or more precisely, they're trying to find out where the Defiant appeared. They probably aren't going to get a hold of the Defiant, although that would be cool if they did. I can't wait to see a Constitution class ship on this show. But having said that, the object, the MacGuffin here is the location of where the Defiant crossed over, the coordinates, right. And that's what's been scrubbed from the record, and that's what they have to try to retrieve from the palace.
So, speaking of the palace, so they go to meet the Emperor, and who is the Emperor? Yeah. It's Georgiou, Captain Georgiou from the first from the premiere, and Giorgio and Burnham still have this very close relationship. She calls Burnham. She calls her daughter, and so this is a very like painful thing for Burnham, for Michael to deal with, obviously, because she was part of. She was her hero, but then she was also part of her death in the actual universe, and seeing her as this emperor, it's got to be a very conflicting thing.
Well, she's seeing her hero's dark side, and it's kind of like it kind of reminds me of the last Harry Potter book, where Harry, Dumbledore is dead and buried, and the will has been distributed, and he learns that Dumbledore was not quite the perfect hero that he thought. That he was a flawed person and made some terrible mistakes, right? So that kind of happens in life. I actually was I didn't hear anything bad about my grandma after she died, but boy, did I learn a lot about her after she died. I had people from other spheres of her life tell me about, this and I always knew her for this and this, and I had no idea because I only saw this one side of her. Now, Burnham's seeing this other side of her mentor. That is pretty.
That's interesting. I mean, now you bring that up because I've just had my grandfather pass away, and it was kind of the reverse situation for me. Not that he was a bad person by any means, but he was kind of a cranky old man to me, and a little bit difficult. But going to the funeral, I learned a lot like that I didn't even know, and it does sort of humanize people both in all ways, sometimes these situations. So that's interesting. And there's definitely some of that feeling. And, I think it's got to be emotional to also even just be called a daughter again, and to be reminded of that love and that relationship that they had. But here's this sort of weird, twisted version of it. Like, that would be very unsettling. Like,
and yet the context, she's more likely to get a knife in the back than a hug,
Yeah. That's true. And so also are Mirror Lorca and Mirror Burnham, are they like a couple? Are they like a relationship?
No, I don't get that off of it. No.
Okay.
We don't know. It's unclear. Wait a minute. I guess they are. Because I
kind of got those vibes.
Implied. Yeah, it's definitely implied in that scene where who it turns out to be Mirror Lorca, says he's found somebody else after horribly killing a guy, or horribly letting a guy die and then killing the guy. Well, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's implied.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with that. To point to Giorgio, says, our bond is strong enough to cross universes. And that she tries to get Lorca released from this torture, but we find out that Giorgio is sensitive to light, and that I guess the Mirror Lorca has been using Burnham to get to Giorgio. So that's also probably part of it too. Is he may not be 100% honest in his like love or whatever, and but he gets this injection from Burnham to help him deal with the torture.
Right. Yeah, an analgesic to kind of numb things a little bit.
And he kind of pretends to be in more pain than he is because he's had the injection, but he won't say, he doesn't know the sister's name because it's not Mirror Lorca. And
first we're thinking he's holding back because he doesn't know, he's confused. What would I be thinking in this situation? I'd be terrified because we're assuming that he's our Lorca.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just left this feeling like I needed a little bit more heroism. I needed a little bit more hope for me with these two episodes. I left feeling pretty beaten down, pretty frustrated. And I don't know, like I just feel like the next one needs to be a little bit more hopeful. I think if the next one is more just like all the characters getting like tortured and beaten and like killed and sad and sad and sad, then I will be, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to finish because we agreed to, but I might be kind of done with the show. I need something to kind of hold on to here. That's just me and my tastes and things I like. But I don't know. I just need more. I need them to make Burnham more likable, and I need them to make her more of a hero, and just give me something more.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the phase where, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think that we can trust the writers. Mm-hmm. For one thing, I think we should address that a lot of fans, and I feel vindicated by the reveal that Lorca's not such a good guy after all, because it didn't feel. I know. I at the time I just chalked it up to, well, that's war. War turns you can turn you into a bad person, or war can make you do things you wouldn't otherwise do. But now we see that, oh no, he had a really different agenda, and a very un-Starfleet kind of agenda.
Do you think real Lorca or mirror Lorca?
Mirror Lorca. Though we don't know our Lorca. We don't know the Lorca from our universe. We haven't met him.
Oh, so you think that mirror Lorca has always been Lorca?
He's that he's it. He's from the mirror universe. He always has been. That's why he's always been sensitive to light. He's from their universe.
Oh,
does that change your perspective at all?
A little bit, yeah. Interesting.
That's because he's been playing a long game all through this, and it's been all about him grabbing. It's had nothing to do with the Klingon War and everything to do with grabbing power in his universe.
Interesting. I didn't realize that certainly gives you more to sort of chew on.
But the scars on his back, the weapon under his pillow, the fact that he has failing memories when talking to an old friend, and she thinks this guy's a broken man. Like, to get from she knows one guy and sees that he's changed, and she's like, well, the admiral.
What's her name?
Admiral Cornwell.
Yeah.
Going, I know that. I think here's a man I think I know, but he's off. There's something really wrong. And given the trauma he's been in, he's encountered in his life, it kind of makes sense. He's a mess, and that's why she was ready to end his career before she was captured.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is why things about Lorca just seem a little off, and I've always seemed just a little off, a little out of place.
Yeah.
A little un-Starfleet. That's why.
Yeah. It's definitely always felt, completely different than your other captains. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And this was somebody who was more, and it makes you wonder. It kind of makes you think, oh, so he was, since he was so insistent on getting Burnham to begin with, it's kind of interesting when he knew
that he needed her.
That she had been the one to inadvertently, however you may look at it, get rid of Georgiou.
Mm-hmm.
That he would be interested in somebody who had that kind of had done that, had that kind of power.
Well, and where in our universe, Burnham had killed Georgiou accidentally, he's got to be thinking like, oh, she's my ticket, absolutely. Like if this is destiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But probably what he's not counting on is that I think that I'm going to make a prediction. I think in a weird way, Burnham's going to save the Emperor from him. I don't know how I don't know all the details. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but that's my feeling. There would be a lovely symmetry to that as a writer I would want to pursue.
Now, so I guess you can take people out of the mirror universe, and obviously if he's been a mirror universe all the time, so could she take Georgiou out and into regular
Oh, and
universe?
bring her to our universe?
Yeah, can you do
Boy,
that?
that would be interesting. Yeah, she could.
That's so weird.
Yeah, she
That's
could.
so weird.
There's a well, you got to check out the Deep Space Nine episodes. There's a the captain's dead wife is alive in the mirror universe, and he spends a lot of time with her,
Mm-hmm.
and brings her back for a short time. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
um,
Interesting.
yeah. There's
Interesting.
a weird kind of thing that goes on there with his son, and oh, she's mom, but not, and yeah, it's yeah, that is interesting. But
Yeah. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. You always kind of talk me off the ledge. Feeling pretty negative, and then you help me feel better.
see how it bears out when the story's wrapped up, though. Again, like I said, I'm hesitant to judge it too hard one way or the other.
Hmm. Well, the title of next week sounds very interesting. It's What's Past is Prologue. That
Mm,
should be interesting.
indeed.
And and then we have The War Without, The War Within, and Will You Take My Hand as the final
Ooh.
3 episodes. So, all right. Well, we will talk next week. And thank you again. I really appreciate it. And so, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Elmano Roboto or at Happy Place Poems.
Awesome. I'll have that in the description section. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on YouTube and iTunes. And I am reporting on the Sundance Film Festival all week. And so I just posted my review of day 3. I've seen 8 movies so far, which is amazing. And it's been a mixed bag, as always, with Sundance. And there'll be more to come throughout the whole week. So I'm really excited. And so definitely check that out. And hopefully my voice will get better as I continue on with the festival. So thank you so much for joining me, and we will talk again next week.
My pleasure. Bye now.